guys, it's Lily. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a little bit of a different video. I am going to be giving you some tips and tricks to surviving your first year of law school. I just finished my first year last May of 2017, and so I'll be going into my second year on August 20th, so in about a little over a week. And so I thought that maybe I could give you a second year's perspective on how to survive first year. Sorry if the camera moves at all. My cat is very curious and playing with the tripod. So yeah, I have a little note card here of like 7 different tips and tricks that you guys might be able to utilize, because I know when I went into my first year, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't even know what an outline was, and I didn't know anyone else going to the school. I didn't even know really what classes I'd be taking. I didn't really know what a contract even was, and so I just wish I would have, I'm sure there's videos out there, but I think I would just provide a little bit of a different perspective as someone who didn't read 25 books about what law school is going to be like before I started school. And so yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. My first tip, and probably the one that if I was watching a video the summer before my first year that I would totally ignore, is that I totally recommend taking paper notes over laptop notes. I know every single person, at least at my school, uses Microsoft OneNote, which is like this program. It's like a Microsoft Office program that just allows you to take notes. And so you can like customize it, you can create different folders, different notebooks, and you can, a lot of people would create like a different notepad for every day of class, and so they'd like label the notes by date. And I actually used OneNote. That's what I used for, I'm pretty sure, every class first semester. And to caveat that, every school will be different. At my school, no, I don't think any of the professors cared first semester whether you took notes with paper or with a laptop. Whereas my second semester, I had one professor who, it was like laptops were banned. You could only take notes on paper. And I guess that's sort of the class that pushed me to, I mean, obviously I didn't have a choice, so it pushed me to see, you know, like how can I take paper notes? One second, my cat is playing with a bag. Can I have this? Okay, and so sorry about that. So yeah, so every school will be different. Your school could have a no laptops at all policy. Your school could not care and allow you to use laptops in every class. And so yeah, a lot of the kids at my school, I mean, I would say 95% of the class takes notes on their computer because professors talk fast. There's a lot of information. Obviously you can't handwrite as fast as you can type, and especially for someone like me, I'm a very fast typer. And in my mind it was like, oh, I could type this down really fast and then listen to what he's saying or listen to the explanation. So it was sort of like, I just thought it was a more beneficial tool for me. And so that's what I did first semester. And I think that just ends up creating a ton of work that you have to go through at the end of the semester. You'll have 50 different notebooks of different days of notes you've created, different things you've written on the sides. It's just hard to explain. OneNote lets you type wherever you want. So a lot of kids will take notes and then they'll take like different bullets on the notes and side notes, and it's just, it becomes way too much at the end of the semester when you're trying to put an outline together. And you're trying to condense everything you've learned into this like tiny attack or outline. And so it just becomes really hard when you have all these different, like I can possibly like put a screenshot of like one of my OneNote notebooks up here. It's just, when you open it, it's just overwhelming, and it like just would give me anxiety that I had to go through all of that and finals were coming up. And so I have an example here. This is my, the class that laptops were banned. This is my property notebook for obviously property. And so you can just see, it's like really organized. It's like I highlight, I have like flags and stickers. There's not like writing everywhere. I just think this was a really beneficial thing for me. And I'll tell you the main reason why. So yeah, this is just my property notebook. And I mean, over the course of the entire semester, I didn't even fill up the notebook. I have like that much left at the end. And so it's not like you're gonna have to go through 50 notebooks. Like it's just one notebook. Everything you need for the entire class is right here. It's not written on like 40 different pages on your laptop that is just like scrambled, and it's just like, because that's the other problem. And I know I sound like a broken record if you've watched any videos or read any articles about why you should take handwritten notes over like typed notes, but it really is true, and I can tell you from a perspective of someone who just went through it. When you're typing, it's just stream of consciousness. Like, you are just typing what the professor says word for word. You're not sort of like taking it and like regurgitating it in your words to where you're going to understand it better. So when I would go back and I'd read things that my professor said, like, yeah, sure, it probably made sense when she said it 4 weeks ago, but now that I'm reading it, it's this long, convoluted, complex sentence and paragraph explaining X, Y, or Z, and I can't really understand it when I'm trying to prepare for the final because it's not written in a way that I would explain it or I could interpret it from what she was saying. So what this does when you're trying to like quickly write down what your professor's saying at a million miles an hour, you have to kind of shorten it and condense it, and you're kind of already doing half the outline work at that point. You're putting it into your own words in a way that you can understand, shorter, conciser, easier to remember, and it's not just this big block text. You have to kind of condense it into like a sentence that you can write down really quickly, and yeah, it's just a way for you to remember it. And so you're already finding ways to like help you understand things because you know you're gonna have to like remember it later. Whereas when you're on the laptop, it's so much easier to just quickly type what your professor's saying, which ends up being harder in the long run. So yeah, that was just, oh, and the biggest point, I almost forgot, the biggest point, like the main reason that I would recommend you take handwritten notes is because when you go to make an outline, taking this and condensing this, having to rewrite it into an outline is so beneficial. If you're just like, my first semester when I was making outlines from my computer notes, I was just copying and pasting things like from the notes into the outline, which didn't make me read it, didn't make me relearn it. When I'm trying to condense what I've written in my own handwriting and I have to retype it, which means it has to re-go through my brain. I have to rethink about it, think about, does that make sense? Am I gonna understand that when I go back and try and study the outline? It gives you like, it forces you to look at your notes a second time and go through them as you're like breaking them into this outline. And so, yeah, that was just, and it's sort of like a scot-free way to study because you're just sitting on your laptop watching TV and like condensing your notes into an outline. It's like, even if it's like sort of like mind-numbing and it's not really like active thinking, those words are going through your brain again, you're thinking about them again, you're thinking about concepts from the first week of school that you probably forgot about. Instead of copying and pasting them, you're sitting here like typing them from your notebook. And so it just gives you a second glance at all of the things, and it's like a run through your brain, and it's really just an easy way to get your studying started. And you can even check in with yourself, like, is this a section I know really well, or is this a section I'm like, oh my god, I don't even know what I wrote? Because if it's a section you know really well, you can kind of just put in things that you don't know. And if it's a section you don't know, then you know you're gonna have to spend a little bit more time on it, rather than just taking a huge block of text and copying and pasting it into your outline, because that's overwhelming too. Because then when you go back and look at your outline, it basically looks like your notes, and it's not this clean, condensed version from your handwritten notes. So that's what I have to say about this. Oh my gosh, sorry, the other biggest thing about this is I can tell you from personal experience, the laptop is distracting. I would sit there and I'd play games, I'd do the crossword, I would be on Facebook messaging my friends. It is so distracting because again, you're sitting there, you can quickly type down what your professor's saying, and then when they're giving examples or going off on a tangent, you just kind of flip back to Facebook and you check out for the next 10 minutes. And there's no way to ever get back what your professor said. You're never gonna be able to rehear that unless you're like recording the lecture or something, which you're never gonna go back and listen to. So yeah, I mean, I was the biggest stickler for, I was going to take my notes on a laptop. I was going to take it in every class that let me. I was never going to take paper notes unless the professor made me. But this semester I bought 5 notebooks for my classes. I'm going to be taking all of them, all the notes by hand this semester, and I'm just going to see how it works because I really, really thought it was beneficial for property. I got an A in that class because I was able to make a nice outline that I could understand that was my own and wasn't just my professor's words. Yeah. So I think that's all I have to say about paper notes over laptop notes. Yeah, and I showed you an example. This is my notebook. Yeah, so my second tip would be to start outlining early. I can be the first to tell you that I don't specifically do this. I mean, you can study a couple different ways. You can wait till the end of the semester and, like I said, take your notes and put them into an outline as a way to study at the end of the semester. But it becomes this huge, overwhelming task to have to sit down at like the last week and with this huge pile of notes and then condense it into like this outline that you're able to study for the next couple of weeks. Especially when the finals are coming up, all the classes have ended, and it's just, for all your classes, you then have to do that. Where on a different level, you can just take your notes on a weekly basis. Like every Sunday night, you can sit down and add a little bit to your outline. Go back through your notes, check in with yourself and see if you understand that concept. If you don't have to study it right now. Just write it down as something that when the final comes, you need to understand better. Yeah, I think maybe like a once a week or like when you finish a unit would also be a good time to go back and check in with your outline, because then it allows you, even if you do that at the end of the semester, you can also just come back to it and, you know, fill in gaps, go through it again, go through your notes, make sure it looks how you want it to look. So I just think like start outlining early is a really good tip. And for those of you who don't even know what an outline is, I was with you as a 1L coming in. An outline is just what it sounds like from when you write an essay or anything. It's just you take the units, you break them up, and you just write things down by unit. Like for example, like criminal law, you would just take the different offenses and write down, like you would take assault and you'd write down the elements and things you need to know about them, battery, the elements and the things you need to know about it. It's just an outline. It's just an outline of the course. It's basically like a syllabus that you're creating for yourself. It really is as simple as it sounds. There's no right way to outline. There's no wrong way to outline. You can have a gigantic outline. You can have an attack outline. It can be anything you want as long as it's going to help you. And you're not going to get it right the first time. You're not going to get it right the second time. It's no big deal. I can show you an example of some outlines. Another thing I like to do is, as I'm preparing for the final, put all my like handouts, notes, practice things that the TAs give us into a binder. So this was my torts binder. This is my property binder, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, my property binder. Our professor gave us like practice multiple choice questions. I just put these in here. So an example of an outline right here. This was my property outline. I just have the different units highlighted with all the information I need to know in between it. How many pages is this? It's 17 pages and it's front and back, which seems like a lot, but you cover a lot of stuff. And I mean, if you break it into sections and the way you study it, you're gonna be fine. And the reason that I have them like this, just like in this binder and not really like studied, is because I turned mine into flashcards, which I'll just move on to that section right now. My first semester of law school, all of my books were open note, and so I have a couple of outlines in binders that I would just take to class. I took the book to class. When you do an open note final, you can just bring whatever you have. Second semester, all of our finals were closed book, so it was kind of like a big shock and a big like wake up call. Like, the bar's gonna be closed note. You probably should get used to taking closed notes finals, because I think 2L and 3L year most of the finals will be closed note, which means you have to go in there memorizing, for example, 17 pages of information and be able to spit it out word for word, the rules, the elements, all of those things. And so, what class was this? Okay, I don't know why I'm pulling out all, wait, it's not. This is my constitutional law, right? No. These are all mixed up. I'm very confused. This is my property flashcards. So I just had like a couple sets that I just threw like a ring around. These are also separated by units. So for example, this is my easement flashcard section. These are adverse possession. Just I separated them by units and then clipped them together so that once I understood one of the units, I could put it to the side so I'm not constantly going over it because I know the material. The ones I didn't know, I obviously went over tons of times. I took these into the final. I was studying like minutes before. And so I think that's a really good tool. That's one of my points, is make flashcards. Even on an open note test, I think it might be helpful to study with flashcards because it's something that you can just flip through mindlessly. You're sitting on the couch, someone can ask you them, even if they don't know about law. As long as you're writing what they need to know on the back, they can figure it out and help you. Like, my flashcards were a lifesaver. I know that's what most people did for the closed notebook. My friends all made flashcards, and it was just a really helpful way to spit out the words and make sure that, or spit out the rules and make sure you're getting the words right, because some professors are sticklers for using the specific words they told you or using the specific words of an element they told you. I have another example of an outline. This is my torts outline. Maybe not, it's some of it. And so same thing, just split up by units. Okay, and so yeah, that's basically my spiel for outlining. Outline early, outline often, and for a closed note test, definitely utilize flashcards. I think that will be very beneficial. And I felt so much better prepared for my second semester finals, even though they were closed book, because I sort of relied on the outlines first semester as like a crutch for not having to study as much, because I was like, oh, if I forget something, I'll just go back and look at the binder. You don't have time. You don't want to be doing that. That's stressful. You just want to be able to type and get out of there as fast as possible. Another little tip is make sure you just, like, I just wanted to go to school and go to school, and I wanted to go home and read and go to school and make law school go by as fast as possible. Make at least like 1 or 2 friends. It's just helpful to bounce ideas off of. It's helpful to text someone and say, hey, what was the reading assignment? Hey, that case is really hard. Did you understand it? It was helpful for me to, right before the closed book tests, we would sort of run through an outline on like an empty whiteboard in a room. It's just helpful to have 1 or 2 friends to be able to bounce ideas off of, like on an intellectual level, because there were definitely things that I got wrong that my friend corrected me on, or they would get wrong and I'd help them on. So it really is helpful. You can't know everything. You're gonna do fine if you're just like a lone wolf, but I just recommend, you know, having that person that you can compare an outline with, or you can compare a flashcard with. Just a general class thing, don't be afraid to ask questions. Professors love questions, if they're not like stupid questions. But there are no stupid questions. I raised my hand all the time, and I'm a shy person, but your professors make you feel comfortable, and don't be afraid of the Socratic method. I go to a pretty prestigious law school, and they're not attacking us. I never feel scared to go to class. As long as you're doing the reading and you're prepared, you're gonna be okay. Another thing would be to utilize online resources like Quimby, Oyez. Your school will definitely have library resources online. They may even have an outline bank for different professors. or just like samples of outlines that other people have done. In addition to online things, a lot of different companies will be on campus handing out things. For example, Barbary was at my school and they handed out this giant book of first year outlines. Like these are outlines right here for you to use and like riff off of and check back in with and make sure that your outline is right and correct, and just to take advantage of these things. Even if you don't end up using them, they'll help you for the bar or when you're in a pinch and you don't know something and you just want to check. They are helpful, and just make sure. For example, also like my property professor posted those multiple choice like practice problems. Sure, I could not have done them, but it gives me a chance to see what his questions are like. Just practice in an environment that doesn't affect my grade. So yeah, definitely utilize all resources. It's going to help you in the long run. Just two more. One is proactive reading. I don't know if any of my other friends did this, but I would basically get my reading done for every class for the entire week over the weekend. So that if that means 50 to 100 pages for each class, I would read it Saturday and Sunday so that Monday through Friday I could come home from school, relax, do any assignments, work on law review. That's more second year, but work on your journal, work on X, Y, or Z that you may have to do, or just relax. Because it's not really fun to go to class all day and then come home and read and barely be caught up every day. It's nice to have a chunk of reading done, or even a week's worth of reading done, so that you can just come home and relax, maybe go over it a little bit if you're going to be on call, and just be prepared for the next day. I loved doing that. I will continue to do that. Just get the week's worth of reading done and you don't have to worry about it. That's my biggest tip, and that's the biggest thing that I learned how to do my second semester. First semester, I think I was just reading nightly and I never looked forward to it, didn't want to do it. But if you just set down that chunk of time to do it, you're gonna get it done, and then you don't have to worry about it again until the next week. My last tip is not really a tip, but there will come a time sometime in your first year, I'm guessing second year and third year too, well, you will just want to roll over and die. You don't understand a class, you don't understand a concept, your professor hates you, your friends are doing better than you, you're not getting good grades on your legal writing samples, you didn't get into a club, you didn't get vice president of blah, blah, blah. You're tired, you're breaking out, you're stressed out. Just know that you are not alone, and every lawyer and every law student went through that. Everybody feels like they're stupid their first year. Everybody is overwhelmed. Everybody is scared. And as confident as other people may seem, trust me, they are just as scared as you. No one has more preparation for law school than you do. You are going in just like everybody else. I don't really think there's like a prep for law school class that you could have taken. You're just on the same level as everyone, and all you can do is try your best. Legal writing professors are all different. They prefer different things. Just because you're not getting the greatest grades doesn't mean that you're not good at legal writing. You are fine. Everyone's fine at legal writing. It's not that big of a deal. Everybody stresses about it because they're basically the only grades you get in law school, because there's not like assignments in classes. It's just reading. And so just don't put too much pressure on yourself. Looking back as a 2L going in, like, I'm so proud of myself for finishing my first year. I wouldn't even have cared what grades I got. It was just like a feat. Like, when you walk out of that last final, like, you just want to cry. Like, you have done so much work. No one could even comprehend how much work you've done, but it's like no one really cares except you. But you will just be so proud of yourself. No matter how you think you did it. And I can give you an example, a little story time. I had the best torts professor in the world. He was the best. He's been teaching it for like 30 years. He knows his stuff. But I just couldn't put the units and the elements together. I couldn't really understand how torts worked. I didn't understand what he wanted us to know. I didn't understand what we were supposed to put. I was like a week before the final, I didn't have an outline. I hadn't even started one. My notes didn't really make sense. I hadn't started an outline. I didn't know where to start on an outline. But that's almost the best situation because it forces you to almost relearn the class and just start from the beginning, and it's painstaking and it's hard, but it's almost like you can sort of always condense and boil down the things that your professor wants, and it's not this gigantic, huge thing. I was able to fit everything I needed to know for torts on these flashcards, which, I mean, it's not really that much. And I mean, if you can fit what you need to know about a concept on the back of a flashcard, you're going to be able to learn it and you're going to be able to remember it. And so that's just my little anecdote. I took the final and I was fine, and it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be, because you can learn these things. You know them. If you go to class every day, you're absorbing information, even if you don't really think that you are. And you know it better than you think you do, and as a lawyer, you're able to sort of put things on the page that I guess you're sort of able to bullshit it. And as long as you kind of know the foundational concepts, you can kind of get your way through it. You're gonna be okay. That's just my little story. The final was fine. And yeah, there's really nothing anyone can say to prepare you for first year. It's really hard, but it's really rewarding, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Walking out of that last final, I was just so proud of myself, even though they were hard and I didn't think I did very well, and I didn't do perfectly on all of them, and I didn't do perfect on my legal writing samples, and I'm okay. I got an internship, and everyone's gonna be a lawyer. It doesn't really matter what grades you're getting. It's just about learning and absorbing the information and just learning how to be a lawyer. It's not really about what concepts you remember at the end of the day. I don't know. And it's about the friendships you make. And it's just a great experience, and I hope everyone enjoys their first year. I think it gets harder from there. I don't know. I haven't started my second year yet. And yeah, I think that's everything I have. I can definitely make some more law school related videos if you guys would want. I just thought that I would give some tips and tricks that I've learned and that I did learn as a 1L and I will be utilizing as a 2L, like taking paper notes and starting on my outlines early. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, you can definitely leave them below, or yeah. All right, thanks for watching. See you guys in my next video. Bye!